There you see our tour routing. The high-speed train has delivered us at about 175 miles an hour right into the heart of Paris. And we go out for a little walking excursion right away. Hop in the metro, come up out of the underground station into the center of town at Place de l'Opéra. Boulevards radiating out all around us, starting out with a little walk through the Palais Royal. These gardens are right in the heart of the city. You might not even notice them from the outside because they're surrounded by buildings, but by all means, step inside the Palais Royal for this green, verdant treat, complete with fountains. And we'll be showing you the Eiffel Tower at night as we cruise along the River Seine. We'll take you up to Montmartre for a festive evening meal and a stroll around the quaint little Place de Tertre. We'll be eating a lot, as usual in World Traveler, and getting around as the locals do. And one of the really keen places to take a break is this pastry shop that we always stop at, Dalio. There's actually a chain of these stores in Paris. You can find them scattered around town. This one happens to be over by the Luxembourg Gardens, where we'll be taking a stroll shortly. But first,
Have a bite. See that, baby?
This cherry tart is my all-time favorite sweet.
How's the taste?
Listen to me.
How is that?
So delicious.
We will walk
It's
down
not hard,
the
and it's
Luxembourg
sweet,
Palace
and it
through
tastes like
the
fresh
gate.
cherries.
Even people who don't normally eat pastries are digging in here. They have some healthy ones. It's like a little meal, a little canapé.
What did that mean?
Well, it's another one of the great things about traveling. You have an excuse to indulge in these things because you're a tourist. You might not do these things every day at home, but what the heck, when you're on the road, why not?
Still eating, huh?
Yes.
Is that number 2? Or number 1?
Yeah, we went back for
We
seconds.
went back for more.
So we continue into the Luxembourg Gardens, which is a beautiful park here on the left bank. The centerpiece of the garden is the Palace of Luxembourg that was built for Marie de Medici, who moved in 1625. It was built in the Italian style to remind her of her home in Florence. She was involved in a lot of court intrigue. She was the mother of Louis XIII and involved in a lot of disputes and power struggles, but she was wealthy and she was able to live in the palace for about 10 years before finally being kicked out of town and spending the rest of her life in exile outside of Paris. The Luxembourg Gardens are a nice green oasis, a good spot for a break. Get off our tour bus and take a stroll. These are gardens that you could even eat. They're so delicious. We're traveling in the month of June, so the weather is very pleasant. Temperature in the mid-70s, and all the flowers are blooming. We're going up to the Hill of Montmartre, have dinner and take a stroll around in the Place de Terre. We'll show you how to get there. Take the metro. You can get there by several different metro stops, changing trains perhaps along the way. It's always part of our adventure with Hawaii Geographic to travel as the locals do in the metro. Big highlight. Coming up out of the metro at Abbesse, there's a beautiful art decorative awning designed by Hector Guimard. And we stroll over to the foot of the funicular. You could walk up the hill. It's really not too bad to climb up that staircase, and some of us do.
Yeah, we'll go down.
But easier yet, just ride up the funicular for the price of a metro ticket, which is about $1. And in less than a minute, you'll be transported to the top where you'll find Sacre-Coeur and a view that will knock your eyes out looking over the city. You can see practically everything from here at the top of Montmartre. And rounding the bend into Place de Tertre, what a view. This is a postcard snapshot view. And the place itself is gorgeous. It's a bit touristic, it's quaint, it's pretty, it's cute, and it's full of shops and restaurants. The restaurants are pretty okay. They're not great food up here, frankly, but the food is decent. Well, our 3 days in Paris are really action-packed. Since we've done this trip so many times, we have everything planned to get the most out of the experience, and we particularly like walking tours. Up the next morning for breakfast and another adventure. What will we do today?
You'll see a very interesting contrast between the new and the old. It's in the distance is the old Paris, and here we're standing in the middle of the new Paris. This is like almost science fiction buildings plopped in from outer space. It's called Les Halles. And there's a big park that goes across that way, and underneath it is automobile parking and the metro and a huge shopping mall with about 200 stores. But we're going to skip all that stuff. And we're going to walk back into time, into history. All the stores are closed.
What is France known for?
Right now we're getting into the middle of this pedestrian zone, and you can see it goes in all directions around us. No cars allowed in here. They claim it's the largest pedestrian zone in all of Europe. It goes for about 4 blocks that way, and in every direction it goes for about 4 blocks. So let's say it's 20 square blocks, all for pedestrians. A lot of shops, restaurants, gourmet restaurants, inexpensive cafes. Young people hang out here at night. The bongo drummers hang out over there, and all kinds of strange people. There's a police station on the corner to keep things safe. So it really is a safe place even at night. Very interesting neighborhood. This is a Renaissance-style fountain. It's called the Fountain of the Innocents. And all around it is this big plus that's very lively at night. There'll be rollerbladers and people hanging around and Haagen-Dazs and so on. This is Eatery Center over here. This is the Conciergerie with those conical towers, and it was a palace, it was a prison, and now it's a museum and a courthouse. And we're going to cross over and head to Sainte-Chapelle, and then we'll go inside there, and then we'll go over to Notre Dame. We're now looking at Sainte-Chapelle, the Holy Chapel, and this was built by King Louis back in the middle of the 13th century, and it's really quite an amazing building because it's so old. It was inaugurated in the year 1248, and it only took them 3 years to build it. Notre Dame took 200 years to build. This is smaller, of course, but still it's a significant building. And well, why was it built, and why was it built so quickly and so beautifully? It was built to house the crown of thorns. And the crown of thorns did come to here, and they say that there's still one thorn up in the top of the steeple as a relic, and the rest of the crown is actually in Notre Dame, locked up in a vault. That's the story. The interesting thing about the building, aside from the history, is the structure of it. You see all the glass there, and how the walls are actually vertical buttresses coming out from the building instead of being like walls that run along parallel to the building. These walls are perpendicular to the building, and what does this do? It strengthens the building, and it enables most of the building to be glass instead of stone wall. Now, this is the first building in history that is mostly glass walls ever built in the world, which makes this the first modern building. Because nowadays our buildings are all glass. We just have steel beams. We have glass curtain walls. It's the same idea. This is a radical breakthrough. Now, Notre Dame has got some glass, of course, but it's mostly masonry still. The early Gothic churches were a step away, beyond the Byzantine. The Romanesque had very small windows and very thick walls. This was a big, giant step in that direction of modernism. Gothic, we look at today as Gothic as being something very old-fashioned, right? But in their day, this was radical. So this was Louis's private chapel. His palace was connected physically to it. The palace is gone now. This is all courthouses, but in the old days, his palace was immediately next door, and he would just walk in from his palace under a covered arcade into the chapel for his daily services. But it really comes to life on the inside. When we get inside and you'll see the stained glass, you'll see why we're here. But for now, let's go on inside and enjoy the glories of the stained glass. What we have on the windows are scenes from the Bible. And there's something like 1,000 pictures on the windows here. Because back in the Middle Ages, most people were not literate. They couldn't read the Bible. And so stained glass windows were used as teaching aids to tell the stories of the Bible. And the priest would be educating, he'd be telling the stories, and maybe children would be gathered around, or the adults would be gathered around. And it was almost like a slideshow, an illustrated talk with all the different scenes. We've got Adam and Eve, we've got Genesis, the Exodus, we've got Job, we've got the kings, we've got 1,000 scenes, plus the round flamboyant window up here from the 15th century. So that's a little bit later. That's actually about almost 200 years after the main church was built, the round window. But these other windows are all original. These are one of the most glorious collections of stained glass any place in the world. It's from the 13th century and all original.